So hello. If you are an aromatherapy student or you're thinking about studying aromatherapy and essential oils, I believe this video will be helpful for you. So I'll be going over 5 mistakes that I've made in my case studies, more particularly in regards to scheduling, as well as some other random case study tips that I wish somebody would share with me when I started doing my program because I just didn't really know anyone who was further in the game than I was. And then at the end, after that, I'll be opening it up to a question and answer period. So if anyone here live with me has any questions, I will answer them. So of course, I want to say, feel free to say hi if you show up. Even in the replay. But if you are live, you can feel free to ask any kind of case study related questions, and I'll save that until the end. So for those who don't know me, hello, my name is Jessie. I started using essential oils in 2015, 16. Decided to go get certified in 2019. I got to the point where I can call myself an aromatherapist, level 1 NAHA level, but I'm still continuing my education and certification to reach a higher level because learning never stops. So, quick disclaimer here before we get started is to say your program, your situation, or your ways of doing things may be different. So some things, some tips, some mistakes that I share might not be mistakes for you. So just kind of take it with a grain of salt, knowing that my circumstance might be different than yours. If you're wondering about my program, what it looks like, in a nutshell, I have 30 case studies to do, 30, which is a higher end, is the higher end of the spectrum that I've ever seen. I know some programs only require 5 or 10, but mine is 30. I, in my program, am allowed to do more than 1 case study at a time. In fact, I don't think I could not do that and finish my program on time. My program has a limit. Not all programs have a time limit. And if I were doing like 1 case study at a time, 4 weeks, or 5 weeks or whatever, it would end up being about 180 weeks minimum, being 3.5 years, which I can't do case studies for 3.5 years. That's why I'm doing more than 1 at a time. That's my context. That's how I'm doing it. And then for my case study, what 1 case study counts for me, that includes the initial consultation. That's usually an hour and a half with the client. I see kind of what their health situation looks like. What is their health history? Are they on any kind of medications? What do they want to use essential oils for? Getting a really good global overview of their health so that I can know which essential oils would be beneficial for them, as well as which essential oils I should be avoiding. So that the initial consultation, after that, I make the product. After that, I have minimum 4 to 6 weeks with them. We do like weekly, bi-weekly checkups. And then after that, we end it and I have a case study report to type up. My case study report is longer than what I think a lot of people's are. I just finished typing up 5, and each of them ended up being between like 21 and like 28, 29 pages, where I've heard people from other schools that only do like 3 to 5 pages. So keep that in mind. Every program is different. I'm speaking from my point of view and my experiences. So yeah, let's get started. So that's a whole case study. Even though there are some schools. I talked to someone who said that there are like initial consultation counts as a case study, making the product I think counts as a case study, and then the follow-up I think. So just like, of course, look into your own program and the program you're kind of looking at to start and what they do and what you actually want to be doing. So let's get into the mistakes. And again, feel free to ask questions if you're here live. Mistake number 1 I made was letting clients choose dates. And I know it sounds like a great thing to do. I really wanted to do that when I first started doing case studies. But what that ends up looking like is there's that lack of structure. Like if you choose your own dates, you know when you're available, you know when people can come in and see you. Whereas if you're like, oh, whenever my client wants to, that turns into having less structure. And I find like a lot of times when I did that, I'd have clients that say, well, I don't know when I'm available next week. Can I let you know next week? And then your whole schedule is in limbo, right? Because you're like, I don't know when this person's going to want to do a case study next week. I can't plan things. And it gets to be a lot of like wasted energy and time for nothing when it's just a lot easier when you choose the own dates and you let the client know if they're available, they can do it. But at the end of the day, you can be as flexible as you personally want, and you can. And And yeah, figure out what's healthy for you, what's your boundaries and your limits in regards to time, because usually when people are studying aromatherapy, that's not the only thing they're doing. You know, you probably have a job, you might have a family, you might have other things to attend to. Mistake number 2 is kind of along the lines of that, is choosing different days for each client. So I started with giving my client complete freedom, which was kind of a lot of energy for nothing, because it's hard to be like all over the place and compromise your own schedule. Then I started saying, okay, well, I'm going to see like Mary on Monday, Wendy on Wednesday, and like, I don't know, Thomas on Friday. And then what that ends up looking like is that you'll have 3 days each week or each second week, however your program is, that is consecrated to case studies. So it takes a lot of time. It's kind of like spread it out energy for nothing. Where what I found to be really helpful was to choose a day of the week that you do case studies. So for me, last batch was every Friday or every second Friday. Now it's Thursday. So I know Thursdays is my case study day. It's not spread out throughout the whole week, because that takes a lot of energy and time. And yes, it kind of messes up your week. You know, I don't know if that's bad to say, but it's reality. It's like, do you really want to spread yourself out thin like that in terms of your schedule? Next is not having preset appointments, days, and times. So I started to letting, like I said, I let clients pick their schedules. Then I started choosing their schedules sporadically all throughout the week. And then I decided, you know what? I need more structure. This is a lot more stressful and just took a lot more energy than it needed to. So I decided, okay, I'm going to say that this case study is this date at this time, this day at this time, week 2 checkup is this at this time. So it was all set up so that when I had the case studies ready for sign up, I could say, hey, does anyone want to be a part of my case studies? Here is the schedule. Is this something that you can commit to? Because I hear a lot of aromatherapy students, and I've experienced it myself, where sometimes people might have the tendency to not realize what is like what kind of commitment that actually is, or it's have that tendency to be flaky if there's no structure. Like they'll say, oh, I'll let you know when I can see you next for an update. Whereas if you have preset days and times, you say, hey, this is what it looks like. Can you commit? You communicate that. And then if they are willing and they can and they will, then they'll say yes. Something also, I'm looking down at my sheets because I don't want to forget, they're less likely to change and cancel the times and dates, which is something that I see other people struggle with. I've struggled with, where I'll have clients say, hey, I totally forgot that day. I have a supper. Can I do it another day? Or can I just not come this week? Or, you know, there's a lot of, it's hard to, not that you don't want to accommodate people, but eventually when we don't create that structure, it tells other people that they could just kind of decide when they want to come and go. And it creates a lot of like, I don't know, a lot of stress, makes you kind of spread out more thinner than you need to be. And it feels less chaotic and heavy when I have like, okay, this is the date, this is the date. I mean, I make exceptions when things come up, but it doesn't have to be, you know, it's an exception rather than the rule, or the tendency to always be like all over the place. Like, when can Susie come see me? When can so-and-so come see me, kind of thing. Yeah, I think I've said that. Next, mistake number 4. Again, your program may require you, oops, I hit my light. Your program may require you to do one at a time. And especially when you start out with case studies, it's helpful to do just one at a time. But my mistake was doing just one case study at a time. And then I realized, okay, I'm never going to get done. It's going to take me forever to get this done, like for my due dates. So I will start staggering my schedule. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So I got to the point where I was like, okay, I really need to planned out. So I started like starting a case study, and then 2 weeks later started another one, and then 2 weeks later started another one, then 2 or 3 weeks later. So I ended up doing this staggering thing. So I was like, okay, it's going to allow me to do more than one at a time. But what I didn't realize is that it also takes a lot of like mental energy and kind of stress to always have like almost every week or two to have somebody starting, have somebody ending, have somebody in the middle, and not really knowing. I mean, you do know where each client is, but it takes a lot of mental energy, and it could be a lot more draining than what I do now, which is, I'm hoping this makes sense, but which is I'll like batch them. I'll have like 2 to 4 batches at a time of people that start. So like yesterday I had 3 people start, where I was like, okay, 3 people are going to be starting now. This is the date. These are the times. This is the date. This is the time. So I'm knowing that like when I see them on February 3rd, I know everyone's at week 2. When I see them on February 4th, I know everyone's at week, or February 17th, I know everyone's on week 4. And then also when I do the initial intake of 1 hour, it's like I have that week to create 3 different products, which is helpful to be making 3 products at a time rather than like sanitizing, preparing everything, making 1 product. And then the week after, sanitizing, preparing, making 1 product. It's really like spreading out your energies in a way that's not as efficient as it could be, because your time is precious and so is your energy, right? Again, your program might be different. For me, that is what works, and that's what's really helpful. I don't think there's anything else to say for that. Mistake number 5. So not typing up case studies until the very end. It's something that my first 15 case studies, I did first 5 and then first 10. I'd always tell myself, okay, don't wait till the last minute, don't wait till the last minute. And then I'd wait till the last minute, and it was super stressful having to type it up. And then my last batch of 5 case studies was 16 to 20. I ended up having to spread my Christmas about 2 weeks, typing up 5 case studies, about like 25 pages each. So it's about 125 pages that I ended up having to type up within like a period of like 2 weeks, which is really unnecessary. And like I said, everyone has different kind of length of case studies, but for me, it was just too much. So what I'm doing now, and I'm successful so far, is that when I have an intake with somebody, I'll make sure everything's typed up. And then every like 1 to 2 days per week, I'll dedicate it to like, okay, I'm going to type this up. I'm going to look at drug interactions. I'm going to do a little bit as I go to make my my life a little bit easier. And that you might find that helpful as well. Next, my ideal situation. So I'm going to kind of recap rather than saying what I shouldn't do. I'll say what I do. That is having appointment dates and times ready for sign up. So I say, okay, my case studies are this date, this time, this date, this time, this date, this time. If people are interested, they can plug into a time that I've already kind of designated. And then these times are usually every same day of the week. So I know that every Thursday or every Friday, I have case studies, right? And I do usually 2 or 3 at a time. I think I might push it and do 4 at a time, like starting at a time. I currently am doing like 5 right now that started, 3 that just started, but 5 in total. And yeah, just like having the date, time ready, do in batches so we know everyone starts, well, the batch starts at the same time, the batch ends at the same time generally. And yeah, if you have any questions, again, ask them, but I'm heading on to the helpful bonus tips for case studies, things that I wish people would have told me before. Sometimes there were some things that people actually told me before that I'm kind of kept. And that is, 1, when you get a good result, you're doing a case study on a client, let's say they have certain issues. I don't know what I can say here online, but they have certain issues and boom, like the change is radical. They're super happy for what you've done for them, what your product done. This is the perfect time while it's fresh to really ask them, hey, can you write me up a testimony? Testimony. That's what's called in English. A testimony. Can you send it to me by email? Usually I like having that written permission where like they'll send it by email so that later if they forget, like it's there. And then you can always take it down if they change their mind. But I'd say, hey, if you really liked what happened, like, can I have a testimony, a little write-up so that if and when I ever have a website or a business or whatever, I can have it. And could you send me a photo of you looking at the camera or smiling, where I can keep that as a part of your testimony? Because having testimonies and also having photos of people looking at the photos is something that's really helpful. And if they're not comfortable with having photos, that's okay too, but that's the best kind of testimony you can get it while it's fresh. Next thing is, when you're starting, as much as I think it's good to do like multiple case studies at a time in terms of being efficient, when you're starting out, you'll probably want to do just 1 at a time. It could be really stressful. There's a lot to learn, especially with like different drug interactions or, just different things that come along with the case studies. First few times, 1 at a time is perfect. Another thing is, I guess sometimes people will say, well, I'm really nervous about doing case studies. Like, I don't know how to start them. Something I've learned in my life, for those who don't know, I do work in the education world where I have to get in front of people and present. something I learned when I was working at a college a few years ago was I'd get nervous presenting sometimes. And one of the other profs was like, you know, Jesse, like when you get nervous, like you could ask other people questions because that really kind of takes the spotlight off of you and kind of like, you know, creates that interaction as well. So when I get nervous, when I do intakes, because I always do, it's normal. I usually start off with saying like, hey, like we're going to start off. I'd like to know what kind of experiences you have with essential oils. I'll share with you my story. And then after that, you know, we can explore, like I'll get them to take a pen or pencil out and a piece of paper, and I'll give them a few minutes to really write down what kind of things they'd like to improve in their health, like let them dream about their health, problems that they have. And then it kind of takes that stress and it becomes more of an exchange, which is nice. I feel like it really breaks the ice to let people grab that piece of paper, pen, give them a couple minutes to write things down, and then just really like communicate the heart and things that they want in their life. Next, drug interactions. So if you've ever done case studies, and especially if people are on multiple medications, it can be really heavy to have to look up all the drug interactions and type them out. I started about my 22nd case study. I started a Word document where I will copy and paste reoccurring like drug interactions and stuff like that. So I don't have to constantly be like making it up on the spot. I'm not making it up on the spot, but like putting it in my case studies and then cross-referencing it. I put it in a Word document. When I realize they're on certain kind of medications, I'll okay, I'm gonna pull it out from my Word document, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Just because having to redo the work every time is a lot of effort. That's something that I wish I would have started, 20 case studies ago. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, some practical tips, like if you are, meeting up with people and you have their names on your forms, and you're going to be out in public, taking public transport. Sometimes it could be a good idea not putting their full name just in case it does get lost. I mean, that could just be like a fun practical tip, I guess. But that is pretty much it for the bonus tips. If you are interested in studying aromatherapy, I will put a video here and also in the description. There you can check out different kind of aromatherapy schools and things aromatherapy student related. I don't see that there are any questions. I'll give you a few moments to write any questions if anyone has any. But yeah, know that my YouTube is full of all sorts of resources. So feel free to check it out if you want to study aromatherapy or you're a student. So I don't see any questions. So take care and bye-bye.